why we keep asking Black women to be resilient in systems built to break them. Welcome to Soft Girl Era, the sacred space where strong Black women unlearn survival, rediscover softness, and reclaim the joy, rest, and freedom they deserve without guilt, without apology, and without explanation. I'm your host, LeAnne Dolce, pronounced Dolce, like sweet softness whispered in French. And I'm your guide from burnout to boundaries, from doing to being, from strong to soft and loving every second of it. Today, I want to share something with you that completely shifted how I see resilience, strength, and what it really means to rebuild your life when the world keeps asking you to start over again and again and again. I recently had the privilege of sitting down with Veronica Atkins, a woman whose work is nothing short of revolutionary. Veronica is a researcher, advocate, and truth teller who has dedicated her life to exposing the systemic forces that push Black women out of economic stability, professional dignity, and the careers we've worked so hard to build. Her insights don't just inform policy, they validate the lived experiences of hundreds of thousands of Black women who have been told their struggles are personal when they are, in fact, structural. Veronica's work is changing the conversation around equity, resilience, and what it truly means to thrive in systems that were never designed with us in mind. She is making the world a better place by refusing to let our stories be erased or diminished. And for that, we owe her our attention and our gratitude. What Veronica shared with me, what she's uncovered through her research and her conversations, is something we desperately need to talk about because it challenges everything we've been taught about resilience. Let me ask you something. How many times have you been told that resilience is the answer? That if you just work harder, stay focused, keep your head down, bounce back faster, you'll make it through? How many times have you heard that strength is about endurance, about weathering the storm, about getting back up no matter how many times you fall? We've been sold this idea that resilience is a personal trait, something you either have or you don't. And if you're struggling, if you're tired, if you can't seem to bounce back the way you used to, well, maybe you're just not resilient enough. But here's what Veronica helped me see. Here's the truth that we need to say out loud. Resilience, as we've been taught to understand it, is not enough. And the reason it's not enough is because the game is rigged. Let me explain. Most people assume that resilience is simply about bouncing back from adversity. But what's often overlooked, what we don't talk about enough, is how systemic inequities like the dismantling of DEI initiatives, um, federal workforce cuts, and persistent wage gaps are forcing Black women to rebuild their careers and lives, not just once, but repeatedly. The conversation around resilience rarely acknowledges that for many Black women, professionals, and entrepreneurs, starting over isn't a choice. It's a necessity imposed by forces beyond our control. This moment isn't just about personal grit, it's about navigating systems designed without our thriving in mind. Let me give you some context. Over 300,000 Black women have been pushed out of the US workforce in recent months. 300,000. These aren't women who chose to leave, these are women who were laid off, pushed out, displaced from jobs in government, especially federal positions, healthcare, and nonprofits. These are women who showed up every day, did the work, led teams, served communities and were told, thank you for your service, but we no longer need you. And here's the thing, these weren't just jobs. For many Black women, these roles represented stability, oh, benefits, retirement plans, the ability to take care of their families, to build something, to finally breathe a little easier. And in a matter of months, that stability was ripped away. Veronica told me about women who had spent decades in public service, women who believed in the mission, who sacrificed time with their families, who poured everything into their work, only to be handed a pink slip with no warning, no severance, no plan. And the message they received, whether spoken or unspoken, was this: you are expendable. Think about that for a moment. You spend 20 years serving your community. You show up through budget cuts, through policy changes, through administrations that come and go. You believe in the work. You believe you're making a difference. And then one day, someone you've never met, someone who has never walked in your shoes or understood your sacrifice, decides that your position is no longer necessary, that you are no longer necessary, and you're supposed to just bounce back. You're supposed to dust yourself off, update your resume, smile in interviews, and pretend that this didn't shake you to your core. That's what resilience asks of us. It asks us to absorb the blow, internalize the pain, and keep moving as if nothing happened. But here's what we need to understand: when you're forced to rebuild repeatedly, not because of personal failure, but because the system is designed to destabilize you, resilience stops being a virtue and starts becoming a burden. Let me say that again. When you're forced to rebuild repeatedly, not because of personal failure, but because the system is designed to destabilize you, resilience stops being a virtue and starts becoming a burden. And this is where Veronica's work becomes so critical, because she's not just documenting what's happening, she's naming it. She's saying, this is not about individual shortcomings. This is about structural violence. This is about policies and practices that systematically exclude Black women from economic security and professional advancement. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Now, here's where the story takes another turn, because in the face of all of this, in the face of being pushed out, displaced, and told they're not enough, many Black women are doing something extraordinary. They're turning to entrepreneurship, they're starting businesses, they're creating their own opportunities. And on the surface, that sounds empowering, right? It sounds like resilience in action. But here's what Veronica helped me understand: for many of these women, entrepreneurship isn't a passion project, it's survival. It's not, I've always dreamed of starting my own business. It's, I have no other choice because the traditional pathways have been closed off to me. And there's a difference. There's a difference between choosing entrepreneurship from a place of abundance and being forced into it from a place of desperation. And when we celebrate Black women entrepreneurs without acknowledging the systemic forces that push them into entrepreneurship in the first place, we're missing the point. We're saying, look how strong they are. Look how resilient. When we should be saying, why are they being forced to do this in the first place? Why are the systems that are supposed to support them failing them so catastrophically? Veronica shared stories with me that broke my heart. Stories of women who had to liquidate their retirement accounts just to keep the lights on while they figured out their next move. Women who went from leading departments to working gig jobs just to make ends meet. Women who had to explain to their children why they couldn't afford the things they used to afford, why everything had to change, why mommy was stressed all the time. These are not stories of failure. These are stories of systems failing the people who needed them most. And this is where I want to bring it back to you, to us, to this community. Because if you're listening to this and you've ever felt like you're constantly rebuilding, constantly starting over, constantly being asked to be resilient in the face of circumstances that feel impossible, I want you to know it's not you. It's not a failure of your strength or your character or your faith. It's a failure of the systems that were supposed to support you. And recognizing that, naming that, is the first step toward real change. Now, Veronica also shared with me three key insights that I think are essential for us to hold on to. as we navigate this moment, and I want to share them with you now. The first insight is this: resilience is not enough. Systemic change is required so Black women aren't forced to rely solely on individual resilience in the face of repeated economic and professional setbacks. We can't keep putting the burden on individuals to survive systems that are designed to break them. We need to change the systems. The second insight is this: entrepreneurship as survival. Many Black women are turning to entrepreneurship not out of passion alone, but because traditional career pathways have been destabilized by layoffs and discrimination. And we need to acknowledge that reality, not romanticize it. And the third insight is this: community as foundation. Healing and rebuilding often happen within networks of faith, family, and community. These support systems are vital for both professional reinvention and personal recovery. We cannot do this alone. We were never meant to. And this is where the soft girl era comes in. Because what we're talking about here, what Veronica's naming, what so many of us are living, is the need to shift from survival mode to something else, something softer, something more sustainable, something that honors our humanity instead of demanding we sacrifice it. The soft girl era is not about giving up or checking out. It's about refusing to carry burdens that were never ours to carry in the first place. It's about saying, I will not keep rebuilding in systems that are designed to tear me down. I will create something new. I will rest. I will protect my peace. I will choose softness, not as weakness, but as an act of resistance. Because here's the truth: the world taught us survival, it taught us to endure, to push through, to keep going no matter what. But survival is not the same as living. And we deserve more than survival. We deserve joy. We deserve rest. We deserve to build lives that feel good, not just lives that look strong. I want you to imagine something with me for a moment. Imagine a world where Black women are not constantly asked to prove their worth, where we are not constantly rebuilding from the ground up because someone decided we were expendable. Imagine a world where our contributions are valued, where our labor is compensated fairly, where our voices are heard and respected. Imagine a world where resilience is not a requirement for survival, but a choice we make from a place of wholeness. That world is possible. But it requires all of us to do something different. It requires us to stop accepting the narrative that individual resilience is the solution to systemic oppression. It requires us to demand more from our institutions, our employers, our government. It requires us to build community with each other, to support each other, to refuse to let each other fall through the cracks. And it requires us to give ourselves permission to rest, to soften, to say no, to protect our peace as fiercely as we've protected everyone else. Because you are not here to survive, you are here to bloom. So here's my challenge to you today. I want you to ask yourself, where in my life am I being asked to be resilient in a system that is breaking me? Where am I carrying a burden that was never mine to carry? And what would it look like for me to put that burden down? And then I want you to do something radical. I want you to choose softness. I want you to choose rest. I want you to choose yourself, not out of selfishness, but out of reverence for the life you've been given and the life you deserve to live. And if you're in a position of power, if you're someone who makes decisions that affect other people's livelihoods, I want you to ask yourself, am I building systems that support people or systems that break them? Am I valuing resilience because it's convenient for me? Or am I creating conditions where people don't have to be resilient just to survive? This is not just about Black women. This is about all of us. This is about building a world where everyone can thrive, where everyone's humanity is honored, where no one has to choose between their dignity and their paycheck. But it starts with us. It starts with telling the truth about what's happening. It starts with refusing to accept that this is just the way things are. It starts with demanding better and building better together. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And thank you, Veronica Atkins, for the work you do to make this world a more just, more truthful, more compassionate place. Now go and choose softness. Go and protect your peace. Go and build the life you deserve because you are not here to survive. You are here to bloom.